So I'm going through an old box of ephemera that I got at a flea market 4 or 5 years ago for I think $12. And I'm like, okay, I'll take it for $12 or whatever it was. I didn't even know if it was that much. It was just old letters and some old diaries and things like that, from mostly from local people. There was like one family, and I guess they bought this stuff at an estate sale. And there was a lot to one family in Auburn corresponding, and there was also some people from Pawtucket, Rhode Island. And this is a letter to a lady in Auburn. I can't find any reference to the family, and so whoever got rid of this stuff sold it at an estate sale, and these flea market people must have picked it up for, you know, a song, because they were selling it very cheaply. But the return address is G.P. Barrows, 1552 Hudson Ave, Hollywood, California. And that's unusual for this collection because most of it is some Massachusetts people, one Connecticut letter, one or two, one from New York, which apparently somebody left the state of Maine to go get a job at a big company in New York. And things back and forth between a lot of female family members. But this is from a man, and it's an airmail postcard. Probably went, oh, I forgot to send it out because it's postmarked. When it got to New York, it was December 26, but it left, looks like the 24th, which, you know, he probably went, oh, I forgot, I'll do airmail. And then inside the card just says, so it may reach you without fail, I send my greeting by airmail. Merry Christmas to you. Merry Christmas to you, Nan, from George. And that gives me a clue because it's addressed to Annie. And I'd love to find these people and ask them about this stuff, but it seems like there's nobody left that cares about it, I guess. But there's a whole bunch of this Nan, love Nan, you know, but her real name was Annie, so I guess Nan was her nickname. So now I can write that down, because I've been through these letters, but there's tons and tons of them. So I think it might be this gentleman. I looked up George Barrows, Pawtucket. There was a Sarah Barrows in Pawtucket who somebody wrote her a letter in 1898 saying they had taken her son, I think it was, out to lunch or met them in Binghamton, New York. And I looked up on her, Sarah Barrows, and there was a Harry Barrows who was stationed in the U.S. Volunteer Infantry in the late 1800s, and I printed it out so I wouldn't forget about it. And I don't know if this gentleman was a relative of the Sarah Barrows, a cousin maybe, a brother. It's hard to tell, but he was born before, I don't know what it says he was born. Oh, this is maddening. Anyway, I think he was born in like the late 1800s or very early 1900s, like 1899 or something, because this was 1927, and he died apparently very young. 1899, yeah, he was only 65, and he did a lot of stuff, so yeah. If it was him, it would be interesting, but I don't know. I'd versed there was also a stuntman named George Barrows, but in 1927, he was born in 1914, the other George Barrows, so he would have only been 13 at that time. There doubt he would have been sending an airmail to somebody in, you know, at age 13. So it's hard. Sometimes it's hard to do the research, but I try. But anyway, I have some more over here. These are Christmas cards. Same family, I believe. And, no, wait, these ones it says here, oh man, look at that. Miss Lena Ross in South Paris, Maine, used Christmas cards. So somebody was selling that as a collection at an estate sale. This is just some sewing needles. I got a couple packs of these, but this is that really old letter. And notice there's no zip code. So I'm assuming the zip code wasn't, used back then. I have a letter or postcard somebody sent to my grandmother up in northern Maine, or not. Anyway, it was just sent to her house, and I think the town. That was it. And so I've got all these, and these are all these letters. See? Somebody marked them with an X, and I think that meant I read this letter. Not all of them are marked. And there's some, just all different letters. Tons and tons of them. And, I've been wanting to sort of go through and scan them in and transcribe them, but it's a lot of work, and it's pretty quiet down here. Maybe I'll have a chance, except for the neighbor across the street with his loud bass music. I moved down here. We moved here for peace and quiet. Then we found out after we moved that there's a interesting person across the street that likes to play loud music with bass and do screaming. We weren't told that first, so I'm really not happy, because we were told it's going to be quiet here after Labor Day. And to hear somebody thumping bass in the middle of the woods on a lake, it is so disrespectful, and I don't care who the guy is. He needs to stop. It really ticks me off. And I got some old diaries. I've got a bunch of old diaries. It's just it's something they would have given away at an insurance company, a calendar, a little wallet for putting things. Something from a Camp Winona. And this is a different name. And I looked these people up, and some of them are from up down east, and some of them are from Portland, I guess. So, but again, it's stuff that people sold off as a part of an estate sale. So I have all these diaries. I've got a bunch of these. There's one where the lady's talking about hearing is 1935. She was a farm wife, and she's talking about hearing about those big dust storms out west. Like, the Dust Bowl. And they're out here, they didn't have that. They didn't have that going on, and but there wasn't, they weren't watching TV. They were maybe reading the paper, or they heard about it because it was a big deal. And all the things she paid to the farmhands, I paid, she owed $124 to farmhands this year, and that's for haying, siding the house, roofing the house, and doing all this work. So it's pretty cool to read about that stuff. And there's these photos of people. Old photos. Little boy with a stuffed cat. No, and they're not labeled. We don't know who they are. But they were at a flea market. That could be George Barrows. That could be anybody. I don't know. It says Providence, Rhode Island, so maybe I can identify him with this photo, because it looks like maybe the guy in that photo. So I'll check it out and see if it is the George Barrows, the military guy and the correspondent, because that would be kind of cool. Anyway, this is kind of stuff I like to hunt down at flea markets. Just cool stuff. If it's cool and it's cheap and it's a bargain, I'll buy it. Have a good one.